thanks. That's my job. Try to make them tight. The exit package came about because I try to do at least one short film a year. If I can squeeze in two, I'll do that too. But usually I make them in May. And I make them, even though I live in New York, I normally make them in Los Angeles because that's where my crew is. It's where most of the people I work with, are there. And May, of course, is the hiatus time from series. So lots of people are available. Actors are available. My friends are available. They're on hiatus. So it just became this thing about we're going to do it in May. So I had one ready to go. We started prepping it. And then, of course, COVID hit, and we knew, oh shit! You start having this fantasy like, okay, well, maybe it'll be over by April. Maybe it's only February now. But of course, that didn't happen, and so I had to cancel. And I was so, I was bummed out. But of course, in the grand scheme of things, happy to be healthy, and But I started thinking about, as like everybody else, our whole lives turned to Zoom. Everything's on Zoom. That's how we're living now. And so I started thinking about, is there a way to make some kind of fun movie on Zoom? And, I was on a Zoom call with like a ridiculous amount of people, like 12, boxes. And at one point someone got up and, he's probably just fed up, hungry or something. And they got up and they didn't come back like for a really long time. And I thought, now, I wonder what happened to that person. Like, wouldn't it be weird if that person somehow got killed and no one knew? Or next thing you know, you see cops coming in the background of their and that's what I just started thinking about this Zoom meeting where people start getting killed, one by one. And, I started out writing it in a very serious vein, but then it just started to make me laugh. And all these tropes that we're familiar with now with Zoom, there's always an obnoxious person who's eating. Like we want to see them have their lunch. No, we don't want to see that. So I just started having fun with that, and then it started to make me laugh, and I couldn't really make it a serious piece, after that. So I just came up with it, and my wife, Melissa Jo Peltier, who's a very good filmmaker in her own right, and she's my producing partner, and so she's great with story, and so we batted things around a lot, and then it was incredibly easy to get that cast because I had worked with them all before. And all except one, and they were all bored to death. They're stuck at home. This is the height of the pandemic in May. They can't go out. So like the idea of acting without having to leave your house, was great for them. So that's how it came about.
And you just shot with Zoom. Zoom became the platform. So. Because it plays out almost like a play, right? It kind of feels like a one-act play, and you could see them on stage together. So, did you have to? You guys have to rehearse this several times? I mean,
Well, we did a day of rehearsal, and then a day of shooting, and I tried as much as I could to do it in a real-time kind of thing, just for the actors' sakes, they could play off each other. But it got complicated because there's one actor, Tim Griffin, who plays the detective, and he's got to come in to someone else's home. So we have to be very careful how to manage that, so to make sure he could come in by himself, that he could be isolated. So we had to do all that as a separate piece, and then I want to do coverage, so we'd have some choices. So we did a bunch of master shots with all 4 screens on. And we broke those up before Tim Griffin's entrance and then after his entrance. And then I did kind of singles. I did single screens. I pinned them on Zoom. And then my editor, we just got them all together in the way that we wanted them to. But so there were more moving parts than one would think in a play-like piece. And I wanted to try to give it some movement, not just be static. So we had some blocking with Jason Kravitz, is a very, very gifted actor and a very funny actor. Having him go from room to room to his refrigerator, and Kim Wayans brings her computer to the door and she gets shot. So we try to make it cinematic as much as possible, and that took a lot of finessing and work.
Yeah, you can tell watching it that you probably did do multiple takes and do singles on certain people and then play with it in editing. But I guess, yeah, you had to arrange everything. You had to have gun props at people's homes ready, and a spouse or someone living at that house ready to do it on cue and whatnot.
Exactly. Yes, we had to, thank God for Amazon. We had to send out some costumes, some props, and then also for the guy who shoots Kim Wayans on the staircase. That's supposed to be Kirk Acevedo, but of course we can't have Kirk go to her house. So Kim's husband, Kevin Knotts, volunteered to be the double for Kirk Acevedo. So they had to have, they sent double costumes to those guys. They had the same costumes. And so, it was like, hey, it was a blast, a lot of fun, and everyone enjoyed it. And, but you had to really kind of think about each step carefully, how we're going to pull this off.
It's fun, and the storytelling is great because, I mean, there's just one thing after another. First, you think it's just going to be a film about firing a guy, and then you find out it's a murder plot, and then you throw in that superb twist at the end with them remotely logging into his computer and finding out that the FBI has watched the whole thing. I tell you, it couldn't have been more fun for the audience, for sure.
I really do miss, being able to see it with a crowd. We just be so, that's why we do these things. We love, trying to affect an audience, and I really would. I hope someday I'll be able to watch it, in a theater.
For sure, yeah. I mean, it's obviously it's a strange year for us in the live event space.
Yeah.
And certainly, yeah, it would. Yeah, we'll see. We might. I haven't bothered saying this yet, but we might. There's those Facebook viewing party type things.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So during the 2-week window when people have watched, can watch the films, maybe we'll try to put together some viewing type parties so that everyone can watch, and then I mean, it's kind of annoying to allow comments during the films, but
yeah. Right. I'll probably tune out of that one.
But I have to admit, it's always wild when you're watching a film that does something, you're in the theater at a festival and the director's in your aisle, and then like someone's grandmother sitting behind him goes, "Oh, I don't like this," and that's one of those film festival moments that are hard to get elsewhere.
I actually had a film years ago, had a feature film in the Boston Film Festival, and we had shot it in Boston. And I went to a viewing of it. It was a pretty good crowd. And there was a guy standing in the back. He was just drunk, just off his face drunk. And I was kind of standing back, and he saw me, and he went, "Hey," he didn't know I made the film at all. He said, "You know what? I was in the bar when they made this movie," because we shot in a bar in Boston. "I was in the background. It was me. I was in this movie." I said, "Oh, really? That's interesting. That's great." And he goes, "Yeah, too bad it's a piece of shit." Ouch. Well, gotta go. Nice talking to you.
I guess that's the festival experience sometimes. Normally it's much more positive.
Right.
But Boston's a special city.
Yes. They don't pull any punches in Boston.
Yeah. They're afraid to be nice. It's too West Coast.
Right.
All right. Well, before we go, I believe I didn't throw it out to you to, besides your wife and a few other people, any shout outs, any people who contributed to Exit Package who?
Well, the funny thing is, we really had no crew. It was kind of liberating, because the actors, they were their own dolly grip, walking around, grabbing their computer, walking around with it. There was no DP. There's a great editor named Scott Boyd. He's cut all my short films at this point. And Scott was an editor on the show Grimm, which I directed a couple of episodes of, and that's where I met him. And he's just very smart and talk about good storytelling. And and he helped me realized that I could just pull pieces. I didn't have to do it all in real time. We'll just shoot that separately, and I'll put it in like it is, as if it is in real time. So, Scott's a great editor and a wonderful guy. And Michael Levine is a brilliant composer. He did the music for Household Demons as well. And he's done a few TV movies for me and some shorts now. Very, very creative guy. And I love his stuff because he's just so interesting. He does so many creative things with just oddball instruments, things he makes up himself. And just a great guy to work with, and always does. I mean, Household Demons is a better example. Exit Package, we only had a little piece at the end they got to do, but and of course the actors. Henry Czerny I've worked with before, Jason Kravitz. I worked with Jason when he was 10 years old, way back in the day, and Kim Wayans I've worked with, who's just fabulous. Kirk Acevedo I had not worked with before, but love him, and Tim Griffin was another wonderful actor who I got to work with for the first time. I love actors. To me, they're very brave, and I love what they do, and I try hard to make them comfortable and feel safe in creating.
Super, and like you said, I'm sure they really enjoyed. Besides how much fun the script was, yeah, just like you and I got to do a festival Q&A without fully dressing. They just got to get up they got to make a movie without leaving home.
Yeah, they loved it. There was sad when it was over. Like, well, can we do another one?
Yeah, I guess the longer this thing goes on.
Yes, I am planning. I have an idea for another one I'm working on right now. I'm hoping to shoot maybe in November, maybe December, if I can get it together in time.
Excellent. Well, it was a pleasure. Yeah, and I guess I should acknowledge you as the MVP of the Sherman Oaks Film Festival 2020 for you mentioned Household Demons. Yeah, you have this super, just really well-made horror short in our horror category, and now you've got Exit Package in comedy. So, besides, I don't think we've ever had a filmmaker have two in the same year. We love when an alumni comes back and it's like, hey, the person in 2017 is back in 2019, right. But two in the same year, that's really cool, and for them to be so different too. It's
I appreciate that. It's great to have
extra bravo for you on that one.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That was a pleasure meeting you, and thanks for sending in such cool films.
All right, we'll see you next year, hopefully in person.
Yes, for sure. All right, I'll hit stop.